Hello horror fans, and welcome to another episode of Silver Screams Reacts. Tonight we are taking a look at the first official trailer for the adaptation of the Stephen King novel Cell.
Oh boy. I read Cell.
I have not, because it sounded ridiculous. So
it was one of those books, and I haven't read a lot of Stephen King because I know that things like Pet Sematary and The Shining are beyond my ability to handle. I've done Carrie, I've done a few others. And I read Cell when it first came out because I thought it sounded really interesting, and it was one of those books with a really interesting premise that wasn't one of those accursed yuppie millennials with their technology is killing us all. Like, that wasn't where it went with it, which is good. And it
which
was
is where
really,
most things go.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. It was really, really good until about halfway through. And then there was this nice little turning point, and I just kind of went, oh, is that where we're going? And it wasn't so much that it failed to stick the landing as it was that it completely disintegrated by the time it hit about 2/3 of the way through. There wasn't really a landing to stick. It was already in free fall.
It was like all of a sudden the gymnasium had a building collapse.
A sinkhole opened up under a kaiju attacked in the middle of the fencing match. I mean, I don't... Yeah. The actual Pacific Rim backstory for the two Korean pilots.
Ooh.
Yeah, no.
Ooh.
Talking about better movies. So we should watch this.
Yeah, we should. I should point out that I did not read Cell because when it came out, I had already seen the Family Guy segment of the Stephen King in his publisher's office going, there's a family that gets attacked by a lamp monster. You're not even trying anymore, are you? When can I have it? And so when I saw Cell on bookshelves, I laughed to myself, and I immediately dismissed it as something that would be like, you know, you and your technology, it's just the most terrible thing. So I didn't pay it any mind, and the fact that it has an adaptation, I'm like, is Hollywood running out of ideas? The answer is yes. But I feel
Stephen King's name sells in the same way that Neil Gaiman's name sells.
But I feel bad for being so judgmental of something I've never read.
Don't worry, I'll judge for you.
Thank you. Let's watch this. So I can only judge this on the merits of the trailer. So let's do it.
Let's go. Rated R. Of course it is. You got people ripping each other's faces off.
Ooh. Cell towers. Get it? Because it's called Cell.
There are 6 billion cell phones in the world.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, buddy.
FaceTime. It's updated.
They're connected.
Yeah. Soon.
What if they're controlled?
There's an app for that. So it's Cybermen.
Not really.
No. Oh dear. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, it's certainly airplanes.
It's terrorists, right? It's gotta be terrorists.
Don't use your cell phone.
Huh.
We're gonna survive this. People are gonna die.
You okay?
Aw,
They
man.
act for the good of the group as a whole. They may be the next stage in human evolution.
When everyone is
What's
connected.
happening now is more than temporary anarchy. It's the start of a war.
I want to wipe him out.
It's a suicide mission. You're gonna die.
I want to see my son. Son? You okay?
That's the trendiest sign for the men's room I've ever seen.
From us, O Lord. For troubles without number surround us. May your love and your truth protect us. For here lies the dead, dust of the earth.
This just looks like standard zombie fare.
Good
It is. Yeah, but
always conquers evil. I believe that.
I was just hoping for more of the.
Are you coming home? I just want to see you come home.
Johnny's voice.
No, it's not.
You know that is not your son.
I just want to see you come
Clay,
home.
no!
I was just hoping for more of the Borg, not World War Z. And I mean the film World War Z.
No, it is basically modern zombies.
That's so disappointing. I mean,
I can give you an extended. I feel like we should talk about this, and then I can kind of go into spoiler talk if you're at all
Okay.
interested, so we can give people an opportunity to turn off the video if
'cause,
they
yeah,
want to go into this fresh.
we've discussed the book a little bit, but yeah, we'll keep that to a separate spoiler section. This it looks pretty boring.
It's
I
a
mean,
boring trailer. It's just not
Yeah.
very well put together. It's not very energetic.
I mean,
If
some
you're
of the
gonna go
effects
with-
look decent, but like the airplane crash, it doesn't look real, so to speak, but it doesn't look bad.
If you're gonna go with your standard zombie fare, even if it is with a technology twist, you need to make us excited for more than your standard zombie fare, because when Cell came out, it was still flip phone era.
Yeah.
Like, the technology was still spreading and was still new enough that I wouldn't say we were just starting to become dependent on it, but we were just starting to realize how much it had become a part of our everyday lives. And so that made the book timely and interesting, and at least the first part more than a little scary, because yes, it was something that happened over a major communication network that we'd all become very accustomed to. I want to say this came out when I was in high school. It's over a decade later.
The
cell
commentary
phones
was more relevant and not as cliche.
And cell phones and connectivity and different ways to interact with people have changed so much that it's difficult to adapt Cell as is and keep it as poignant as it was. And so you're falling back more on the and now zombies things, and these aren't even creative and now zombies things, because again, 10 years ago, that was before The Walking Dead was a show. That was before Z Nation. That was before everyone remade every zombie thing ever. That was before Dead Rising. That was before The Last of Us. That was before we had zombies done everywhere in every form of media, to the point where we were oversaturated and getting zombie love stories. I really like Warm Bodies, but for the love of God, it's Twilight for zombies with better written characters.
Much better written characters.
And more consent.
A lot more. There's
Okay,
so
it's
many more
not-
things.
It's only Twilight for zombies in that it romanticizes the monster, but nonetheless.
But I don't know exactly what year Cell came out, but I feel like the most relevant zombie related.
In high school, it would have been before 2006.
I want to say that the biggest zombie thing that had come out in terms of mainstream media around that time was the Dawn of the Dead remake, which everybody thought was really great, really innovative. I don't remember exactly what year 28 Days Later also came out, but it's right around that same time where we're starting to see new stuff with zombies before being oversaturated with them, at least early 2000s, new quote-unquote stuff with zombies, where, this was probably before Shaun of the Dead even, too. I would have to cross-reference my dates on that. If I'm incorrect, feel free to call me out on it.
Here, I've got the computer in front of me. You keep talking, I'll look it up.
But yeah, at this point, again, it's one thing if you set it in the early 2000s and you limit the technology in that way. Again, the social commentary is a little bit dated because again, we have evolved. But again, if you can at least keep some of the context if you put it in that early 2000s time period. And you also create limitations that we don't have anymore.
Shaun of the Dead was in September 2004. Cell was January 2006. So it was right before I graduated high school. But it was literally a decade ago. We were still using flip phones. I don't think the iPhone even came out at that point. Like,
no,
smartphones
weren't a thing yet.
No, not even close.
We were a couple of years away, but they weren't a thing yet. And so there's a lot that seems to be lost in updating it. And then I keep saying that what I really love about the zombie stuff that I am watching, like The Walking Dead and like Z Nation, is the uniqueness of the zombie designs. These guys, I know that what they're going for, but they just look like people. They don't look like zombies, and they certainly don't look like technology zombies.
This
I don't know
is when we wind up going into plot details, which we'll save for a later point in the video, and we'll definitely warn you when we hit spoiler territory.
So yeah, for anybody who doesn't want to be spoiled for the book or possibly for this movie, go ahead and just stop watching now.
Or skip to the last minute, 30 seconds, something like that.
No guarantees. We're not timing ourselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, so spoiler alert.
I can give you the rundown if you like, from what I remember from a decade ago, start to finish.
Go for it.
So it's, from what we saw of a trailer, cell phones make you a zombie. It's basically, this guy's on his phone, he's trying to find his kid, and there is a signal broadcast across all cell towers that essentially drives people crazy. They're not really eating each other, but they start just tearing each other to pieces. And it's any living thing. There are people that are tearing up their pets. They're going after each other. They're going after, for the first half of the book, it is a straight up zombie survival book. And it's not technology infects you, you're now Borg zombies. It's something in that signal just scrambled your brain. If you're on your cell phone, or if you see this happening and you pick up your cell phone to call emergency services while it's still being broadcast, it just completely screws you up. So the first half of the book is straight up zombie survival. It's kind of 28 days later, except on day one.
Yeah.
Instead of waking up in the hospital. The thing is, about halfway through, they start realizing that the zombies are building their own society, and that's hence the line in the trailer about they might be the next step in human evolution. They've started to understand each other. I don't remember if they have a way to communicate. I don't think they hive mind, but again, it's been 10 years. He's still trying to find his son. The signal that is being broadcast is changed. People are becoming different zombies if they pick up their phones at this point. The only thing I remember is they attempted to modify the signal that was being changed, where if they managed to broadcast it again, it would unscramble brains and cure zombies, theoretically. And do you want the end?
Sure.
We end with him finding his son, who is a zombie, who is an evolved zombie or whatever at this point. He got the second dose of the signal, so he's not batfuck crazy. And it ends with him opening with the new signal on his cell phone and putting it to his son's ear. So we have no idea if it works.
So ambiguous ending.
It's a Stephen King ending. It's either it's hell or you don't have a clue. So it was really, really good when it was a survival novel. It was really, really good when they were trying to figure out, how do we do this? How do we work around zombies? How do we survive? And how do we do it without something that is starting to become one of our biggest modes of communication?
Yeah,
how do we do it without cell phones?
How do you touch base with anybody when the thing that you use will turn you into a killing machine?
Yeah, and again, in 2006, it's technology that isn't quite as mocked, ubiquitous, etc., as it is today, especially with the whole smartphone era. But it's definitely technology that everyone had started to use. It was no longer military only.
It wasn't.
Kids were starting to have their own cell phones.
It wasn't like in 1996 when Billy Loomis drops his cell phone and everybody in the audience gasps.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal anymore to have a cell phone if you live in this country.
It had started to become part of the fabric of society. And it was ingrained enough that in Cell, it can reach a good chunk of the population extremely quickly, and that was what made it so scary. If you weren't on your phone when it happened, you picked up your phone to call 911, and it got you. That was what made it so interesting. Figuring out what happened, figuring out how to survive the zombies. The second they went, they might be the next step in human evolution, or the zombies are forming a new society, is the point where we went, okay, now this is dumb. That's when it got boring. That's when it got stupid. And I pushed through to the end because I'm that person. And as my dad says, I only have so many heartbeats. Why did I waste them on that? So I will not be going to see Cell because I've read the source material, and given the trailer, I have zero faith that they have managed to adapt it into something that is A, timely, being released a decade later with very, very different technology, and B, of any quality. Like, Riff Tracks could probably do something pretty good with this.
Yeah.
But straight up, forget it.
No, and the problem, part of the problem is that this is an adaptation that comes way too late.
Because technology moves so quickly. The book was
really
written
does.
before smartphones happened. This is something where if you're not on FaceTime, if you're not doing this, well, what if I'm on the Facebook app? Is the signal going to get me then if I don't have it put up to my ear? Well, what if I'm on Twitter saying, holy cow, don't actually use
Yeah,
your
if
cell
I'm
phone?
live tweeting this disaster, is it going to attack me?
Like, there are other ways to use your cell phone that aren't flip it open and call someone. Like, even texting. Texting used to cost per message. And still, I don't know if they had unlimited plans by the time 2006 rolled around, but they weren't as ubiquitous as they are
Yeah,
now.
to the point where this guy wouldn't just text his son and be like, where you at?
Exactly. That's not the sort of thing that would happen. But here, we have so many other modes of communication. I mean, you can pull up your Xbox and talk to
You
people
can
via
instant
that. You have a
message,
messenger.
you can email, you can email your son and it will pop up on your phone. You don't actually have to talk to him.
So there are so many ways to work around this.
Yeah,
and there are so many.
Once everybody pinpointed what the issue was, it would just be like, stop answering your phone until we figure out what that is. Feel free to keep texting. It's fine.
Well, and texting hasn't replaced calling, but it's a lot more commonplace with, say, our generation and younger. And our first instinct is not to pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, how are you? Our first instinct is to text them and say, hey, I'm going to go see this movie at 7 o'clock here. Are you up for it?
Hey, Mom, don't answer your phone. Crazy phone virus going around.
Please don't call anyone.
Don't call anybody.
Text only.
Text only.
It takes longer, but it circumvents the crazy phone virus.
Yeah,
like, you still get the first wave of people who were on it at the time. You still get the second wave of people whose first instinct is to call 911, because I don't think you can text 911 at this point. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm
We'd
not
have to double check on that.
I am uncertain, but I do know at least on a Droid smartphone, if you call 911, it shuts down all of your other phone features for 5 minutes, at least.
Makes sense.
No data, no text, no nothing. This is your priority call because you are calling emergency services.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can text 911, so I can see that still being the instinct. But we have so much technology and so many other ways to get around this that presenting this movie, this premise, in the same way that it was presented in 2006 is kind of like having a horror movie now and just saying, oh, the cell phones just don't work, or oh, this character doesn't have a cell phone.
We don't accept it anymore.
You need to address the fact that this new technology exists and is semi-ubiquitous, and I've used that word like 5 times and I don't fucking care, because that is what it is. It's everywhere. It is woven into our lives. People don't go anywhere without their cell phones. Their wallets are in their cell phones. Their contacts for everyone are in their cell phones. They have tiny little computers in their pockets.
They're magic boxes that tell us things whenever we need them to.
You need to address the fact that the world has changed since this was written. And looking at that trailer, aside from the fact that he's FaceTiming with his kids instead of flipping his phone open and doing this, it doesn't seem to have done that.
Yeah, no,
that has immediately set it up for failure.
It looks more like a cosmetic change of the time and not an actual social integrated change of the time. And for me, having not read the source material and looking at this in a very boring way...
Don't bother, I've given you the highlights.
I've seen... I mean, goodness. I've seen the dangers of technology done in the horror genre, especially with cell phones. The movie Pulse. And I love Wes Craven.
Didn't White Noise do it too?
God rest his... White Noise was a little better because it was eerie and it was more supernatural, and it wasn't like this thing comes out of your computer and eats you or whatever. It was very much, they were beings that existed on another dimensional plane, and you only caught glimpses of them via the white noise. And it was also like a semi-prophetic thing, because it was like, anyway, that's a completely different scenario, completely different movie. But I've seen the dangers of technology in movies like that, and the pulses of the world, and just they're never well. Or even one missed call, they're never good. They're never good, and I can't fathom a world where a good adaptation of Cell that improved upon the source material existed when we also live in a world where one missed call was like a decade ago. It was
It's such a
over a decade ago. It's been done, and this doesn't look like it's doing anything new visually for zombies, or visually or thematically for zombies, or the dangers of technology. And there's just not much else to say about it.
The source material is dated but not updated, and that's the problem. And just we've seen so much the evils of technology. You're not connected to anyone. You're not this. You're not that. And I feel like a lot of that comes from people who don't understand how a lot of technology is used nowadays. Like, I know a lot of people who are introverted, who have social anxiety, who have phone anxiety. I know people who have trouble picking up the phone to make a call, which is why Domino's now lets you order online. Things
Such a wonderful service.
I know, right? But it's stuff like that. It's people use this to connect to people they wouldn't be able to meet otherwise. I have friends who live in like rural Ohio that I know via the internet, and we're buddies, and we send each other stuff, and it's great. But it's that sort of thing. Technology no longer functions in the way it did in 2006. It's new. And a lot of people look at it as, you're looking at your phone all day, you're disconnected from everyone. And yeah, I understand if you go out to dinner with someone and you're doing this the whole time, like, well, what's the point of going out to dinner? But there's nothing going on. I'm waiting in line at Starbucks. I'll put it away once I get up there to make my order. But for now, I'm going to chat with my friend in Japan who's only just about to go to bed and say, hey, how was your day? I heard you were doing this today. How'd that go down? Great. Sleep well. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like, it's different. It's changed. It's not this all the time, even though that can be a problem. And there isn't really any form of media that addresses that, because a hell of a lot of media is written and approved and whatnot by people who look at this and go, it's the breakdown of society.
I actually read a really great short story, in a science fiction story in an anthology book about a bit of technology that created a hive mind amongst like high school girls. And the absolute worst thing was being cut off from it, because then you were cut off from that bit of connection. So, Mean Girl Clique would like get somebody in on it and then for no reason just like shut them out, and it was emotionally scarring. And like that, I feel like, is way more poignant and like on point with the dangers of technology in terms of how this thing that connects and binds us can also be used against us than you're a zombie now.
Cell phones. Okay, so I'm out of booze, so we should probably finish. Otherwise, I need another drink.
Anyway,
because we're talking about Cell.
Point being, there just doesn't look like there's a whole lot of either substance or improvement on the source material, even though they've updated it for the time, and it hasn't impressed either of us. And I apologize. While we didn't react to that trailer, that was the most boring reaction I think we've ever done, because there was just nothing in it.
I filmed one like that for the Suicide Squad trailer. It's just, if you're not interested, that is the reaction. That's the cold reaction.
It's not even campy.
50% of that book was good. 0% of that trailer was good. Not gonna see it. Not gonna. I might buy the riff tracks for it if the riff tracks.
I'm not even a fan of I'm not even a fan of the first Dark Tower book. But I'm way more looking forward to Idris Elba being the gunslinger than I am seeing Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack team up in, again, because this is their second team up for a Stephen King adaptation.
Is it?
Yeah, 1408 I think was the other one. But like, I'm just not interested. I would rather see an adaptation of a book I didn't like than see this one.
Well,
because Idris Elba's a cowboy.
Well, this is an adaptation of a book I didn't like.
Fair enough. Anyway, like I meant another book I didn't like.
50%.
Anyway, Katie, where can people go if they want to keep up with you?
You can read more of my very opinionated opinions on Twitter at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet.
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at themenguin. That's TheMenguin. Be sure to follow Silver Screams on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Silver_Screams for those first two, and it's just still Silver Screams for the second one. Again, thank you guys so much. We want to know, what did you think of this trailer? And what is your favorite Stephen King adaptation? I am very curious. I love Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which ironically King himself did not like. But I'm also not a huge fan of Pet Sematary, but I am emotionally connected to the struggle in Pet Sematary. So yeah, I want to know, what's your guys' favorite Stephen King adaptation?
Or if you're not a King person, what property, book, comic, video game, etc., what horror property would you like to see adapted in a movie? Directed by whom? Starring whom?
I like that too.
Let's see a Last of Us movie.
They're working on it.
Oh, well, wish granted.
Well,
Hey.
here's hoping it doesn't get stuck in development hell, but they're working on it.
Like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which is evidently a thing that's gonna occur. I'm looking forward to
We'll
that.
talk more
in
about
a horrible
that.
sort of fashion.
We'll talk
I'm
more
looking
about
forward.
that when a trailer drops.
There's another game.
I saw that. Why? Anyway,
Because you can't let a good franchise
we
die.
could do a
That's how
reaction.
horror works.
We could do a reaction video to that trailer when that.
If you want to
drops.
see me climbing the wall.
Let's do that. All right. Well, we will thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you all next time.